Max Power magazine had a reach way beyond normal motoring media. It featured cruisers, it featured scantily clad young ladies, it featured highly modified cars where the investment in it was way more than what it was worth. It got notoriety through 200-mile-an-hour high-speed runs down British roads, and also at one point they tried to get elected to Parliament. Keep watching and I'll tell you more about the story of Max Power magazine. The first issue was launched in May 1993, and the concept for the magazine was by Graham Steed and Andy Tipping, and the magazine itself was published by EMAP, who later became Bauer Media. Now, this magazine was very much a crossover from the lads mags of the time, the Zoo, the FHM, Loaded, Nuts and so on, but obviously this had a very heavy car slant to it. Early contributors included Vicky Butler Henderson and Johnny Smith, who went on to present Fifth Gear in later years. Now, a core part of the content were the modified cars, and some of these were pretty outrageous. It featured anything from, Citroen Saxos through to Subaru Imprezos and anything in between. And quite often the spend on these was absolutely pretty much outrageous. People didn't seem to think anything of spending 20 grand on what was effectively worth £2 car. And some of the builds, to be fair, were quite impressive. Big body kits, turbocharged engines, interiors, and the whole thing was, they just never seemed to have an end of supply of these cars. And of course, a big part of these cars was ICE. Before it was internal combustion engines, it was in-car entertainment, and it was not unknown to spend somewhere in the region of £5 grand to, just sort of fit out your car with the latest sound system. And these generate, a phenomenal amount of volume and bass. You can imagine a Ministry of Sound CDs thumping it out. And I remember stories back in the day that some of these sound systems were actually cracking the welds in the monocoques on these cars. They were producing so much sort of noise and volume. And the other area that, of course, Max Power reported on were the cruisers. And this is where it almost crossed over into creating a culture that everyone seemed to know about the cruisers, and they were almost all known as Max Power type of events back in the day. Retail parks across the country would have similarly modified cars in them many days or evenings of the week, and Max Power would report on these with some important criteria. Number 1, amount of police presence. Number 2, number of burnouts. Number 3, the barriness of the event. Now, I'm assuming that's not Barry from EastEnders, so I'm sure someone will give me the criteria of barriness. And finally, the attractiveness of the girls. That brings us on nicely to, yes, the fact that the magazine did include quite a number of scantily clad young ladies within its pages. And this pretty much sort of reinforced its lads mag credentials. They're crossing over. I think they sort of branded it more lifestyle, but effectively it's all the same thing. And one of the young ladies that was featured back then, of course, was Katie Price, better known at that time as Jordan. And yeah, of course, you could sort of probably pick up on the fact that Jordan now, or Katie Price as I should call her, probably has as much plastic as some of the cars that she was featured in. So who was Max Power up against at the newsstands? Well, there's two that seem to stick out as being the main two competitors. The first of those is Fast Car magazine, and I was hoping to hold here the very first issue, which I have got somewhere, but I can't find it, which came out in 1987. That was originally more of just a performance tuning magazine, but it did evolve and very much became a competitor to Max Power. And the other one was Redline magazine. That didn't launch until 1998. It was launched by a rival publisher called Future, but neither of those, despite having for themselves pretty good sales, never reached the heady heights of the circulation of Max Power. The magazine really rose to notoriety in the late 1990s when it financed Smokey Nakata to bring across his Toyota Supra Mark IV with 1,000 horsepower to do a midnight run down the A1M near Peterborough, where Max Power magazine was based. Apparently the car, it managed to get to about 194 miles an hour, where the bonnet was attempting to rip itself off. The local Rozzers did catch up with it eventually, mainly I imagine because Smokey let them, and they weren't overly impressed.
Do you think this is a bloody playground?
They hauled him off to the local police station where he was held in a cell overnight. This was because they were looking for a Japanese translator. He was brought before the court the following morning and he admitted to 120 miles an hour. He was fined £155 with £35 costs and banned from the UK for 10 years. He went back to his hotel and the news of this event had spread far and wide very quickly because apparently there was paparazzi surrounding the front of the hotel. He managed to get back in the hotel, get his stuff, go out a back door, get to the airport and disappeared out of the country. The car, interestingly enough, Smokey eventually sold that to a Dubai prince, so that car ended up in the Middle East. The notoriety of the magazine was something not even the BBC could ignore. BBC Derbyshire, they were celebrating when local girl Maria was featured on the front cover of the magazine. And in Wales, they celebrated when Ian had his Corsa, which was valued at about £3,000 and he'd spent 16 grand on it, was going to be featured at the Max Power Live event. And I'll talk to you more about those events in a little bit. And of course, the other thing is, who remembers, BTCC fans I'm sure will, when Matt Neal was the first independent to win a race in the Super Touring era and won I think 250,000 for it. He had Max Power slapped right across the top of his windscreen, so again, more publicity for the magazine there. The magazine was entering probably what was its golden era. 1999 they launched the Max Power Live events at the NEC. This became an annual event over the next few years and attracted somewhere in the region of about 50,000 visitors. The magazine even had a racing game for the PlayStation named after it. This came along again in the late 1990s. In fact, it wasn't quite what it seemed. It was actually a rehash of a game by Infogrames called C3 Racing. It got pretty much average review. Play magazine gave it 75%, but remember this was the era of Toker and of Colin McRae Rally, and you know they were very difficult games to battle against. And then in 2001 they launched the Max Power Cruise Anthems CD, and that was 51 tracks over 2 CDs, and within those 51 tracks were 13 sound effects ones, so I guess that was lots of probably popping and banging and wheel spinning. And the other interesting fact, I'm showing my age because the only track I really remember on there was Born Slippy Underworld, but that's an age thing. And then in 2005 Max Power launched their own political party, Max Power Party. That was obviously a long meeting to come up with that one. And Max Power staffer Dan Anslow stood in the 2005 election for the Southend West constituency. Now you're going to want to know what their policies are, and I'm sure you're going to love them. Shall we go down them? Name and shame crappy garages, reduce speed bumps, prison for uninsured drivers, free boob jobs on the NHS, and huge tax for caravans. Now I do agree with a few of those, but I'm not going to compromise myself by telling you which ones. Now for that constituency they had a turnout just shy of 40,000 people, and Dan got 106, so didn't quite make it to Parliament on that one, but it was worth a go. And the following year, 2006, they launched their Max Driver campaign in association with the Institute of Advanced Motorists, with trying to educate drivers, trying to maybe make things a bit safer. Maybe they sensed it was time to calm down. Yeah, I think really we've got to realise 2006 was the beginning of the end, unfortunately, for Max Power. To see how it all went wrong, let's have a look at the circulation figures. Now, when it was first launched in May 1993, the first issue sold 96,000 copies, which was really hitting the ground running. By 1996, it got up to around about 200,000 copies a month, a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, but it stayed there effectively for about 10 years. And interestingly, the magazine it knocked off the top spot was Top Gear. The peak was in 2002 when it hit 237,000 copies in 1 month. And this is where it's talked about that it hit nearly 250,000. This is the peak month. And to give you an idea of comparison, at that time, Redline magazine were doing about 76,000 copies and Fast Car magazine were doing 117,000 copies. The downhill slide, as you can see, started in 2006. From that peak of over 200,000 copies, it was down to around about 150,000. And this, I think, immediately contributed to cancellation of the 2007 Max Power Live event at the NEC, because I think they could see where the numbers were going. And then it just continued the following years. 2007, it dropped to 100,000, 2008, 45,000, and in 2009, it was down to 20,000 a month. In just 4 years, the circulation had dropped by 90%. It was never realistically going to be sustainable thereafter. The closure announcement came in November 2010, and the last issue was January 2011. And compared to Wise, Redline magazine didn't even make it to the end of 2011. Fast Car did do a little bit better. That carried on until 2021. So what went wrong? Well, I think there was a lot of factors to this, and it's not just down to one thing. Magazine sales were generally falling anyway, and if you look at this chart, if we overlay it with the Max Power figures, you can see Max Power dropped off dramatically quickly compared to how general magazine sales were going. I think the other thing is, you've got to remember, this is, we're getting into the era where things like the internet with forums and with social media were very much getting into its stride. There was the credit crunch in 2008, which made getting finance for these cars to do these builds more difficult, and everyone had to tighten their belt. The demographic was getting older. They were starting to get to the point where maybe they're looking to get married, get a mortgage, settle down, have kids. It was no longer their kind of thing. There seemed to be a move more into men's fitness, that kind of thing as well. And maybe it just wasn't any longer cool. Probably a lot of you remember the send up that Ali G did of the Max Power generation, and that probably didn't help. So there we have it, the story of Max Power magazine. It means something to most car enthusiasts, some positive, some negative, and it was of its era, very much so. Thanks for watching. Please click subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. The track I knew on that was Born Slippy, Underworld. Fuck that.